let's look at all the different aspects of our life. Let's look at all the different roles that I play and figure out how do they all live together harmoniously so that they're supporting each other, not pitted against each other.
This show is dedicated to helping you strengthen your family tree and live financially free. Thank you so much for being here today, everybody. More and more Americans are embracing the side hustle lately. The massive amount of debt in our country is forcing people to get a second or even a third gig to make ends meet. But what if you start to really like your gig? Maybe you see this gig turning into a real grown-up business. How can we leave our 9-to-5s and pursue our passion while still providing for our family? I've invited two guests on the show today that will help us answer this very question. Tom and Ariana Sylvester are a married couple that not only raises children together, but they also build businesses together. They run a coaching business called Lifestyle Builders, where they help everyday people build their lifestyle through entrepreneurship. They also own a liquor store, they invest in real estate, and they still have time to be present parents to their two small kids. Their story and mission of entrepreneurial empowerment has been featured in USA Today, Bigger Pockets, and Huffington Post. Welcome to the show, Tom and Ariana.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. That was an awesome intro.
Hey, well, you guys have done some awesome things, so it's worthy of an awesome intro. So, Tom, how did you decide that you wanted to help people become better entrepreneurs? How was that your mission in life?
So it actually didn't start out that way. Basically, it started out as we were graduating college, we looked ahead and we're like, well, I was like,
you
45 years sitting in a cubicle because I was a software developer. I was like, that's not the life I want for us. So I set a goal to retire, basically have us retired by 35. No idea how I was going to make that happen. And then over the course of us starting a couple businesses, starting our family, we started having people come to us and ask us really two questions. One, how do you guys get everything done? And then two, can you help us start a business to do the same thing? So it was basically from that we said, we've developed a lot of these skills. We've obviously had success in business. Yeah, that'd be great to help other people be able to do what we've done.
What was that moment when you decided, hey, I'm not going to go down the traditional path and I'm going to go this way? It sounded like it happened like right away out of school, right?
Yeah, basically we were ending school and I was starting to apply for jobs and I was like, man, this wasn't really what I signed up for. And I actually had a friend give me a book called The Automatic Millionaire. And I actually didn't. Yeah, I was going to say, I see it behind you. That's perfect. I hated reading books before this. And he's like, no, trust me, read this. And so I read the book and I was like blown away. I was like, holy crap, we could become millionaires. But then right away I looked at it again. I'm like, but it's 45 years of compound interest and waiting. Like, I don't want to wait that long. So I set the goal of 35. I was like, well, that's long enough for us to figure out how to do it, but not too long to where we end up kind of wasting our life before we can enjoy it.
That's cool. That's very cool. So Ariana, I understand that you and Tom had a little bit of debt when you guys started your marriage.
Little bit might be a understatement.
So
we had a lot.
So when you guys started the businesses, did this help that process? How did that help or hinder what you had going on there?
It actually caused quite a bit of contention at the beginning because when we were looking at like, oh, hey, where are we at financially? We just bought a house, we got married, we did improvements to the house, like all of this stuff that just kept adding the debt on top of itself. And then he was like, oh, I want to start businesses. And then it was like, oh, well, we've got to take $5,000 here to add to the businesses. And then we got to take $5,000 here. And then it was like, to me, all I could see at the time was you're taking the money that we could be using to pay down our debt and to get to a really good place financially. And you're going and spending it on all these crazy dreams that you have of starting a business. And for me, I wasn't really aligned with that. So it did cause quite a bit of tension. And then even as we started getting into the businesses and I started getting a little bit more on board, every time we came back to like those financial discussions, it took me a long time to get over the fact that we chose to do one path, which was start the businesses, instead of the other path, which could have been pay off our debt and be at a better place financially. I think what it came down to for me, though, was I started to see what his vision was. So over time, I started to finally be like, okay, well, yeah, sure, we could have been in a better place financially, but we made a choice to set ourselves up for the future and have these businesses already running and have in the real estate and the liquor store. They're more long-term businesses where we weren't expecting to make a huge amount of profit up front, but they're really going to set us up down the road to be in a good spot. So yeah, it was tough at first to kind of get over that hump.
What were some of the? Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, and quick on that point, one of the biggest things that we tell people now is, make sure the type, if you can focus on paying off debt, that's always going to help. But if you're going to start a business, make sure it's a business that doesn't require a lot of cost up front, but will start bringing you in money quicker to then help pay off that debt. Because that was one of the challenges we didn't do. We ended up starting businesses where we had to invest money, and then it was splitting focus between investing money to build more money while also then not putting as much on debt.
Yeah.
What were some of those capital intensive businesses that you started in the beginning?
Yeah, so the first one was real estate investing. Mm-hmm. So in order to buy the properties, we had to have money, and then it was some money to renovate it and all of that. So one of what we always tell people now is if you can start a service business or start something that requires more of your time, it doesn't take as much money up front, and you can start making money faster with it.
Yeah, and the wine and liquor store was
same type of thing.
Same sort of thing. You had to invest a little bit to get in. And then we also made some pretty large mistakes early on that caused us to have to put in some of our own money to kind of cover for those mistakes.
So there were some tough conversations in the beginning, we'll say then.
Yes.
So
many.
So Ariana, tell me some of Tom's methods that he used with you or strategies that he used with you to have some conversations about this is the lifestyle we want to have, and then maybe tell me some of the strategies that didn't work.
Well, the first strategy that didn't work per se would be he went out and spent about $8,000 on a real estate training course without asking or talking to me about it.
Not only spending $8,000, but I put it on 2 high interest credit cards because we didn't have that cash.
Yep.
And I basically bought into the dream of this is the only way we can make it happen. And obviously that was a costly mistake that not only didn't give us money right away, but added to the debt.
Yeah. And that strategy, while I say that wasn't the best strategy, that ultimately was I had to do some internal searching, what is happening right now? He's not the type of guy that would normally do that. So when that happened, that kind of opened my eyes to there was something deeper going on in his head of where is all of this going, which then forced us to have those conversations. So while I would not ever suggest to anybody to go out and do that to open up the conversation, it did come with good results because it forced us to have those conversations about where do we see our lives going? Is it in the same direction? Are we kind of both on the same path here? Because if we're not, we probably should figure that out now before we go any further.
Yeah, open communication like you guys are talking about is so important, and I'm sure that's how you've been able to reach some of the success, not only business-wise, but for your marriage as well. So tell us where you are today. Obviously, there's a lot to get there, the inspiration at the beginning, the difficult conversations, the debt. Where are you today, and why is this the lifestyle that you wanted to build?
Yeah, so basically, Ariana was able to leave her job. I've been able to leave my job. We have now our 3 businesses, and the big thing for us, and I think a story that kind of sets this apart, I used to be a traveling consultant, so I would be gone 4 days a week. And as we have young kids, we had our second child, that was tough. Ariana had to take on a lot of the roles at home and kind of be both parents during the week, and I missed out on a lot of those small things. So our daughter actually started kindergarten this year. And so actually just this week, we were able to go on a field trip on a random Tuesday. And both of us were able to go there because we build our schedules around our life first and we fit the business in. So when we were on this field trip, we were looking around and I said, you know what? We are the only parents that both parents are there at this field trip. And I mean, a lot of kids couldn't even have any of their parents there because they were working, but we were the only ones that both parents could be there because we built this life that allowed that.
That's incredible. That's going to be so special for your daughter. And you have a son as well, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's incredible. And how old are they?
Daughter's 6. She's the one that's in kindergarten. And then our son is 3. So, I mean, he's really not even going to know a time where we weren't around. I mean, he goes to daycare full time, but he's not going to have what she had where daddy was traveling, daddy wasn't home, mommy was always doing all the things. he's going to be in this house and growing up while we're both home, while we're both creating those schedules and able to give our kids the time that we want and kind of raise them the way that we want to without having those other outside constraints.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'm a similar boat. Zoe is 6 and Calvin is 4. So very, very similar situation.
Well, and I think Zoe is the inspiration for Elena.
Oh,
not sucking
that's
her thumb.
right. That's right. I love that. I love our series of videos back and forth. How is that going, by the way?
She hit 100 days. She kept track
Wow.
for 100 days. Every single day. She made new charts every time she completed a chart. She would write out the next set of numbers, put stickers on every single day. She actually went up to like the 11 by 17 pieces of paper because there was more space for making charts.
But not only did she accomplish that, she tracked it every day for 100 days, and then we took her to the zoo. She then also went out and decided that she was going to help her friends. So she went to all her friends and asked them what their bad habits were, and then she wrote out how they could do the same thing she did so they could stop their bad habits.
She literally brought 14 little Post-it notes to school and went around to all of her friends and said, hey, what's your bad habit, so-and-so? And then they would tell her, and she'd be like, you could track for 100 days and just don't do that. And she gave them the Post-it notes.
That is so cute. Oh, my God. Future coach. I think we're seeing it right now.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about the coaching side of things. Ariana, what are some of the main challenges you're seeing entrepreneurs face as they're starting out and building their business, their lifestyle?
I think honestly is getting sucked into this industry and like seeing all the success stories and, you know, all the aspirations that people are out there showing you, which is amazing. Like, we want you to know you can do it, but they come into it without knowing a real sense of reality of what building a business actually takes. Like, long hours, it's a lot of hard work, it's making the tough decisions, it's putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, which I have been in many times, and it's really putting on all the hats to what it means to be a business owner. And I think that coming in that disillusioned to what it actually takes often creates more struggle for a lot of new entrepreneurs because they come into it with all these happy feelings, and then it's like a slap in the face when they actually are like, oh crap, I have to do all of this stuff. Like, this is hard. And then they get into the mental struggles. And then, it's a lot of people drop off and just give up because they don't want to have to put in that much time and effort.
Yeah, I think this is an important conversation for us to have because I think your story is incredible, but I think it's also incumbent on you, because you've had success, to remind people that this is not a overnight story, or these are the things that you might forget. What are some of those pitfalls that surprise new entrepreneurs in year one? I know you guys have talked about it on your blog. I was reading, just sheerly understanding how health insurance works or things like that. What else?
Yeah, one of the biggest things a lot of people don't realize is they get this idea for a business and they kind of fall in love with the idea, and they don't actually go out and make sure that it's a good idea and people are willing to pay them for that. And time again, we see new entrepreneurs run into this struggle where they go all in with their idea, and maybe they start a blog or a podcast or they create a product, but they don't actually confirm that people are willing to pay for that. So they spend a lot of time doing work and working hard, but then they basically burn out because they're not getting any return and they're not getting people paying them for that.
Yeah. Tom, I've heard you talk about being a process junkie, which I appreciate because I love a good process, and it helps me to stay on task at work or even with my little small side business here. What processes can people put in place to find more time? Because I've heard this conversation a lot because, hey, I do another side business, or I've got this great idea, I just don't have any time. How can people solve that?
Yeah, I love that question because one of the biggest things, like whenever we're talking to people on like what their challenges are, time came up so much that we had to start saying, what's your biggest challenge besides time? But it's funny when people say, like, I need to find more time. Well, the reality is we all have the same amount of time. So one of the first things we do with all of our coaching clients or anyone that wants to work with us is we have them do a time audit. And essentially all this is for an entire week, track every half hour of your day and where that time goes. And then what we have them do is basically analyze that. And so for most people, the major categories are, your personal life, your job, and then your business. And if you start breaking that down, you can see essentially where your time goes today. And then what we always have people do is say, okay, now let's look at your goals and what you're looking to achieve. And does your schedule and where you're spending time align to those goals? And more often than not, it doesn't match up all the way. Mm-hmm. So then what we have people do is say, okay, well, now let's redesign what that week looks like. Is there an opportunity to say, watch less TV or do things in a different way so that you can then free up time to be able to build this business without necessarily having to sacrifice your family or do some of those things?
Well, and I think it's focusing on quality over quantity too. A lot of people are doing things in their business that maybe is not the best use of the time that they have because those tasks are not directly related to the results that they ultimately want to get. So when you do the time audit and you're analyzing where you're spending that time, you can look at what am I spending my time on in my business? Are these tasks actually giving me the results that I want? Like if I set those goals out, are these things moving me closer or are they just causing me to work in that cycle of working hard, and you can't step off and actually start down the path? And I think it's the same thing goes for family time. A lot of us are like, oh, I don't spend enough time with my kids. I hear that a lot. And sometimes I feel that guilt because our kids go to school. We don't homeschool and our son goes to daycare full time. And people are like, oh, but don't you work from home? Yes, I do.
So that I can work.
Wouldn't be quality time. He would be home. We would be trying to work. He would be distracting us. And then you get the frustration of like, no, you need to go play. I need to do work. Instead, we've chosen to put him into daycare, which he absolutely loves. We get to spend all the quality time we want when he is home with us. We put the business aside, we spend time with our kids, and we make sure that it's quality time. And we've actually put in place this summer, we're going to be doing family field trips every Friday family field trips. So she's home from school. We're going to take him out of daycare. He's not going to be in on Fridays. We're going to do fun stuff with the family. In order to do that, we obviously have to make sure that our Monday through Thursday is quality time spent in our business.
That's great. They're going to remember those traditions forever. That's awesome.
I hope so.
Very cool. Well, Tom, you've talked about your freedom number in the past. What is a freedom number and why is that important?
Absolutely. So a lot of people that look to start a business, one of their main drivers is they want to leave their job. And usually the people we work with, they want to do that because they want to spend more time with their family. So when we have a whole process that we help people kind of walk through to figure out what are all the steps to leave your job, because it's not as simple as like start a business, quit your job, and everything's going to be good.
Nope.
There's expenses obviously that we all have every month, but a big misconception that people run into is, let's say your expenses right now are $4,000 a month. A lot of people will say, well, I just need my business to make $4,000 and I'll be good. Couple challenges come up with that. One is when you leave your job, there's certain expenses that get added on that might be covered with your employer. So health insurance.
Big one.
There's a thing called self-employment tax that basically your company pays half of it. When you're self-employed, that gets added on to you because you're the employee and the business owner.
I hate that.
Sorry, so your freedom, so your freedom number is really your expenses as they exist today, but ultimately when you leave your job, what your new monthly expenses are going to be. And oftentimes if your expenses are $4,000, if you got a family, your new monthly expenses might be $5,500. So what we want to make sure people do is that they don't build a business to where they're making $4,000 and then leave and have a $1,500 a month gap that they didn't plan on.
Yeah, and then you've talked about, if you're going to make this transition, analyzing where you currently are, your current spending and your current income, and realizing that there's some things that maybe you can do to be a little bit more frugal in order to make this transition. Is that right?
Yeah. And here's the thing. So I used to have a big struggle with this, and a lot of it was my own mentality and my own journey on the personal growth where I wasn't to the point yet where I was ready to give those things up. And I think this is what causes a lot of strife between couples where one is the entrepreneur and one is not, because I have not had the same aha moments that he has where he's like, we're going to have this amazing life and it's going to be the best thing ever. And I'm just going to build a business that's going to get us there. And I'm just going to do it. Like I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get us there. I am not at that point yet. So one of the struggles that we had when we were trying to get to the point where Tom could leave his job was that our expenses were at a certain level, and we kept trying to revisit, like, how can we lower these? How can we lower these? And the subject came up like, oh, well, we could sell the cars. And I had just gotten a nice, not brand new, but brand new to me, very shiny, sparkly Explorer that I fell in love with, the leather heated seats. Like, it was the best car. And that was one of the things where it came up like, oh, well, what if we sold your car? And I was like, well, no, that's not fair. I just got this car. Like, I've been wanting this forever. This is like our nice car. Another subject that came out was selling the house. And we kind of had to have these conversations where things were put on the table and certain things stayed on the table and other things got taken off the table. And the house was a big no, like, we're not going to move out of our house. This is our house. We love it. The car ended up getting taken off the table. But it had to be at a time when I was kind of ready for that to happen. We had to have enough discussions. We had to do enough goal planning and have, okay, I think I'm to the point where I understand what you're saying and I'm all in. So one of the struggles is you can't force those sacrifices onto your spouse, your partner, some of your family. You kind of have to have those discussions and say, listen, this is the life that I want for us. Are you willing to give up certain things and maybe sacrifice certain things for a short period of time while we build that? And then it'll be even better on the other side. So we've cut cable. That was a while ago. We just have like Netflix and Hulu. Well, we sold the car.
I was going to say, and what you're talking about, so there's some big things you can do. Like, so what this really comes down to is getting aligned on what you want to achieve and then figuring out how important is that to you, and are the things you're spending money on now more important or less important? And, people can make some big changes. They can sell a vehicle, they can change a house, maybe downsize to then free up that space for them to do it. There's also a lot of small changes people can make. Mm-hmm. So like one small change we made was we used to do Friday night pizza, and we would order pizza out and it was like a $25 bill. We now switched to Friday night frozen pizza. It's $5. So it may not seem like a big thing.
The kids do not care.
Yeah. But a lot of those small changes really add up. And especially if you've got a big goal you're going after, and whether it's paying off debt or just giving you cushion, that can make a huge difference in getting you there.
We'll be back to the show in just a moment after a word from our sponsors. Are you looking for an easy way to manage your money? The good folks at Tiller are here to help. Tiller is the only tool that automatically imports transactions and balances into Google Sheets, so you can track spending, manage a budget, pay off debt, and grow your net worth. Recently, Tiller released an all-new budgeting system that connects to over 16,000 banks, credit card companies, brokerages, and loan accounts. Their newest features include support for envelope and zero-sum budgeting, the ability to track savings goals, and a more vibrant and easier to understand design. After all, there's nothing better than a beautiful budget. If you want more control of your money, you gotta give Tiller a try today. For a 30-day free trial of this versatile budgeting system, go to marriagekidsandmoney.com/Tiller. That's marriagekidsandmoney.com/Tiller, Tiller. With Tiller, you always know exactly where your money goes. Do you have a 401k? Remember how frustrating it was deciding what to invest in without help? Now there's a better way to grow that 401k. Bloom, with 3 O's, is a simple, smart, and affordable way to grow your 401k. With Bloom, you can simply connect your existing 401k in a few easy steps. Then sit back and relax while Bloom performs a free, unbiased analysis of the funds in your account, and then chooses the best mix to meet your goals while minimizing hidden investment fees. Go online to marriagekidsandmoney.com/Bloom to get your free 401k checkup now. Bloom is so simple. In fact, actually, the hardest part about this is remembering that there are 3 O's in Bloom. Go to marriagekidsandmoney.com/Bloom and enter promo code MKM for your first month free. And see the difference Bloom can make in your retirement. Thanks for considering our sponsors today, everybody. Let's jump back into that interview. Ariana, just to let you know, I think I gave the same line to my wife when we were talking about getting out of debt. I said, how about I just read this great book called The Total Money Makeover, and we're going to sell your car. What do you think? It didn't go well.
Tell her she is not alone.
Well, and the important thing with all of that is, Ariana said, we all have our own epiphanies. And usually what happens, especially when it's coming to like getting out of debt, somebody will have the epiphany. And they went through a series of steps to have that epiphany, and suddenly they want to go get their spouse on board with it. But what most of us don't do is we don't let our spouse go through that journey to have their own epiphany so that we can then do it together. So that was a huge thing that, I realized was I had to quit kind of pushing her and just trying to force her to the epiphany.
Telling me to sell our house.
Yeah, and get her to really the longer term vision of what we wanted to do, so that then when we started talking about what trade-offs we wanted to make, we were on the same page with where we were going.
That's great. Have you, in your coaching time, have you seen any couples or an individual in the relationship push it too far and the consequences of that? Absolutely. And, this is something that's near and dear to our hearts because we attract a lot of couples, a lot of people with families, and they come to us because they want to build a business. And they're often very surprised that we actually start with their personal life. So we have a course that we created. It's actually a free course that we just give away because this is so important to us, called Plan with Purpose. And the whole course is about you and your spouse getting aligned on what you want your future vision to look like, and then the steps to help you guys get there. And we've seen several times where somebody that's the entrepreneur won't take the time to have that conversation with their spouse. And in several cases, it's ended in divorce. It's ended in a lot of family struggles. And I mean, there's people we're working with even right now that we're trying to help them have those conversations because we just see the path that if they keep going this way, their relationship's going to struggle more. And then ultimately, if your relationship struggles, everything else is going to struggle. Your business is going to be so much harder to do. And it's hard enough anyways without adding on more pressure and more stress. Absolutely. Well, that marriage dynamic is very interesting to me because you guys have a special relationship. You work together on your businesses. So, Ariana, what's it like to work with Tom every day and your business? This poor woman. It's a total loaded question for you, bud.
When we first started, it was very frustrating because we are very different. So very different personality types, very different types of communication, just different in all aspects of many things. And so when we first started to work together, it was like every time we would have to talk about the business, we would end up arguing over something or disagreeing over something or like just not having a very productive conversation. And over the years, we've actually gotten a lot better. But there is still so much work to be done. Like it doesn't get any easier. It's just, little things you've improved over time. And then you have to keep reminding yourself, like, I am talking to somebody whose brain doesn't work the same way mine does. And I have to reform the questions that I'm asking, or I have to make sure that I'm putting that out there, that this is something that bothers me and we should have a conversation about it, I think now it just comes a lot more naturally to me because we do it all the time. But yeah, it's very many times I found it very frustrating. His big picture vision, he would always be off and running with the next idea. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. We haven't even figured out the details of how we're going to make this idea work. And then he's off starting another business over here and we're having another kid. And it was a little bit of chaos those first years.
Yeah. Well, that's it hits home. I guess I'll just say that. So, you talked about it a little earlier. I'm very interested in how the two of you, since you're married and you're raising your children together, how do you separate the business side and the family time? It sounds like, maybe Tom's processes of scheduling everything probably helps a little bit, but explain that a little bit. How do you separate that?
So we've actually come to the space of we don't separate them. We do everything together. So we've integrated our business and our life. And by that, I mean, our schedule is one entire big schedule. So the family stuff, as Tom said earlier, always goes on the schedule first. So if we've got something going on that's important to us, it goes on the schedule and the business items get shifted around so that obviously both things still get done, but we want to make sure our first priority is always family time. That happens with our planning. When we do our goal planning, it's not just business planning. We also do personal life goal planning. It's integrated right in because ultimately the business is supposed to be supporting the life that we're trying to have. So when we do plan our goals, we want to make sure that the business goals are in alignment with the personal life goals that we have. It comes down to if we've got stuff going on in the business and we know that we can't be as present at home, we figure out ways to make that work. So maybe Tom gets a couple hours to go and knock stuff out and I'm in mommy mode, and then we swap so that I get a chance to do some of the work and he can be with the kids. But like that's something that we try not to do very often, because the way that we've worked things into our calendar, that only happens when big things are happening in the business. So it's very rare. And most of the time we kind of have our basic everyday schedule of business time, family time, and we fit those in as needed.
Well, I was going to say, and what's so important here, especially if somebody has a job right now, this whole concept of work-life balance, it almost paints the wrong picture because it pits those things against each other, where the way we look at it is it's all one life. So when we talk about integrating it, it's saying, let's look at all the different aspects of our life. Let's look at all the different roles that I play and figure out how do they all live together harmoniously so that they're supporting each other, not pitted against each other, because that mindset is what ends up hurting so many people and causes like a lot of those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about that transition from the 9 to 5. So Ariana, I like my full-time job. I like the benefits. I like the income that I get. I like the opportunity that it still allows me to have vacation and hang out with my family. Should I still consider being an entrepreneur?
So we get a lot of people that actually do enjoy their jobs. But what the entrepreneurship piece can achieve for you is, so you like your job, you have your vacation time, you have your family time. A lot of people are looking for just like a little bit of extra that will allow them just a little bit more of that ideal life that they want. So, maybe you don't want to have to go for a promotion at work. Maybe you just want to have the job that you enjoy right now. In order to make more money, you obviously need to do something else. If you have a passion that you can easily turn into kind of a side hustle, that's one way to go. But Tom actually is a little bit of against the passion model, and I'm sure he will share why with you. But it's having that thing that you can call your own. I know a lot of people do enjoy their jobs, but they're looking for like just that one extra thing that they can kind of do. A lot of people start businesses as a hobby on the side, but then they figure out like, hey, I could actually do this. Like I could actually make some money and help my family either get out of debt faster or like take an extra family vacation every year, maybe pay for your kids to do, I don't know, dance lessons or buy a horse or whatever it is that they want to do that's like a little bit too expensive to do right now. Having that extra nest egg can really allow you to do a lot more things in life with your family.
Yeah, well, and the key thing I look at here is it's all about options. And when we're stuck and we're struggling, it's usually because we don't have options. And what getting out of debt, what starting a business to bring you more income in, what all these things do is they give you more options. So, you may love your job, but what happens if the economy turns and suddenly you don't have a job next year, right? What happens if you love it now, but suddenly you get a new boss and that job you love, you hated? So the biggest thing we always tell people is, being an entrepreneur isn't necessarily saying you've got to leave your job, but having some sort of other side income will then just ease the pressure of everything, whether it's just giving you some additional income or whether it's actually helping to support you if, things go bad and you end up being able to use those options. Well,
or maybe your spouse doesn't like their job and your side hustle eventually is able to replace their income.
Absolutely. Well, these are great answers. I think a lot of people will learn a lot from this because, you could be in different spots. You could like the job. Like you said, Ariana, you could just maybe want a little bit more, a little bit something different. Or maybe you don't want to go for the VP spot because it's going to make you travel all around the country or something like that. So yeah, very, very good, very good feedback. So Tom, let's say I'm switching spots now. Let's just say I hate my job and I want to get out of there. What are the first things that I need to do?
Yeah, first things we always like to talk about with people is, get clear on what it is that you want. Because what a lot of people do is they'll kind of take that knee-jerk reaction, say, I hate my job, business, and then they're kind of out there aimlessly and they're not really going towards something. And it's very difficult to stay on track and focus, if you're just out there like I was at the beginning, just trying to start a business. So one is really get clear on what it is that you want. But when it comes to starting a business, one of the first things we always have people do is we have them fill out this one-page business plan that's called a lean canvas. So normally people think of business plans like it's 50 pages, you got to do a bunch of research, and most people either won't do them, or by the time they get done, they have a bunch of information, but none of it's really accurate or relevant. So what we have people do is we have them fill out this one-page business plan that basically says, okay, the idea you have, who are the people that you want to help with this idea? What problems do they have? What solutions do you think that you could sell them? How much do you think you could sell it for? And it kind of gets all your assumptions out on the table. And then we tell people, talk to as many of those potential people as you can. And basically what we do is say, I've got an idea for a business, but before I spend a lot of time and money on it, I just want to talk to people that this might be for to see if it's even worth me pursuing. And I guarantee you, if you talk to 20, 50, 100 of your potential clients, you'll know more about those people, and they'll either tell you, yes, this is a good idea and I want to buy it, and some of them might even give you money now, or you'll find that people aren't interested or they're not willing to pay, and before you spend a bunch of time and money to start the business, you figure that out, and now you can try something else.
That's great. That's a perfect way to do it, and even putting it out there, like you said, oh, you think my idea is great, would you be willing to pay me before I make it?
That's the key question.
How are you really into it then? Okay.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I was going to say, and the challenge a lot of people do, what they naturally do is they say, okay, I need a business name. Let me spend 3 weeks coming up with a perfect business name. Oh, and now I need a logo and I need a website. And people get distracted and they create all of these things before they even know if people, like you said, are willing to give them money. Mm-hmm. I always tell people, let's focus on having people give you money first. And then if it's viable and we prove it because they're paying you, then we can start putting some of the other stuff in place.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, Tom and Ariana, this has been great. I have a couple questions before we head out. You mentioned already at the top of the show that you were really into Automatic Millionaire when you were just starting out. Was there any book specifically that influenced you in more of the entrepreneurial way as opposed to Automatic Millionaire, or did that drive you in the same fashion?
Yeah, so that one got me into realizing that we can actually build wealth. But then I realized I didn't want to wait 45 years. So the follow-up book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And a lot of people have read this, but the big thing that book did was shifted my mindset around, what it meant to actually be wealthy and be successful. And I think for a lot of people, when they read that book, it kind of shifts how they think about, do I want to spend money on that, car, or can I take that money and invest it or do something else and then take the money I make? So it really just shifted my mindset. And it's even today, a lot of our core kind of philosophies come from that book.
That's great. It's a great book. I enjoyed it as well. So Ariana, let's look back to the beginning of your family entrepreneurial journey, when this all started. If you could go back and whisper in Ariana's ear, what would you tell yourself on how to make this thing happen?
That is a good question. I think going back to tell my past self, just to be open to new ideas and new opportunities, because I was definitely like full focus, blinders on like the traditional path. I just assumed that that's the life we were going to lead. And I didn't really know what else was out there. And even when, he kind of started talking about that stuff, sure, he could have been a little bit more descriptive and told me why he wanted to do all of it. But I think I was just so dead set on, no, this is the way things have to go. This is what you have to do. This is the order you have to go in, that I put myself through a lot of mental struggle because I wasn't open to opportunities. I wasn't open to change as much as I could have been, and, kind of supporting him, but also just allowing myself to have that different perspective.
And then Tom, whispering back to Tom at 22, what would you say?
Yeah, it took a long time to get Ariana on board. And looking back afterwards, the biggest challenge was I kept telling her what I wanted to do. I want to start a business. I want to invest in real estate. But I didn't tell her why I wanted to do it. And, I think one of the big turning points for us was when we started talking about, well, Tom, why is this so important to you? And I talked about, the family life that we wanted and what we wanted the future to look like. Then it got us aligned on where we wanted to go. And then it was so much easier to say, okay, now that we're aligned on where we want to go, let's figure out how to get there. And it was that whole why before the what that really made the big difference.
That's great. That's great. Well, this is an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. Where is the best place for people to follow you and connect with you?
It's been an awesome interview. And the best place for people to find us is actually right on our website, tomandariana.com. And we'll have a special page put together just for your audience. And it'll be /MKM.
Excellent. Can you spell Tom and Ariana for us just so make sure everybody gets that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I probably should. My name is often misspelled. TOMANDARIANA.com.
Excellent. And we appreciate you guys putting that link together special for the audience. I'll definitely have that in the show notes. You guys have a great day and enjoy your productive work day together.
All right. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
What an example of building your business focused on family. I love how Tom and Ariana have structured their businesses to give them ample freedom, choice, and time with their little kids. And they didn't sugarcoat it either. It's not all rainbows and sunshine when you're building a business all of the time. There is a lot of work that you need to do in order to become a successful entrepreneur. When you don't have a boss, you are the boss. So you better keep yourself working hard and meeting your big goals. Here are my top 3 takeaways from my chat with Tom and Ariana if you are considering the transition from side hustler to full-time, not side hustler, full-time business person. Anyway, number 1, find out if people will pay for your product or service before you start. Yes, before. Can you imagine quitting your job for your new passion project and then no one buys your product or service? Yikes. Oh my gosh. That is, that'd be bad. So let's test the market first, my friends. Ask friends, strangers, or more importantly, your target market. Ask them if they're interested in your business idea and if they maybe would buy it. And if you're really bold, ask them to place an order today for your non-existent product or service. Businesses do this all the time. It's called a pre-order. Voila, it's seed money for your business. If you find that no one is interested in your business, nobody wants to buy it, nobody wants to pre-order it, or maybe they don't even think that it has viability, you may very well have just saved yourself tens of thousands of dollars and years of wasted time. So go through that process. I highly recommend it. One book that I read that saved me a lot of time was Will It Fly by Pat Flynn. And he goes through that exact process. I'm going to put that in the show notes and highly recommend that. Number 2, if you're in debt or new to the entrepreneurial life, consider a business that doesn't require so much money up front. A lot of folks are in debt. If you're in debt and you start a new business that requires you to pile on more debt, you're not starting your business on the best footing. If you come into sales trouble or some customer service trouble, or you just need to take some time off for family purposes, your stress level is going to go through the roof and your business will fall through the floor in this home analogy. Even if you're debt-free, but you're new to this entrepreneurial life, starting a business with little to no money up front can be a lifesaver. The world of a digital entrepreneur is vast, and it does not require a lot of money to get going, so I would check into that. I'm currently having a lot of fun doing this digital entrepreneur stuff. So, number 3, find out your freedom number before you make any sort of leap from your full-time job, ensure you're making enough to not only cover your life's expenses, your family's expenses, but the other hidden costs that you're not thinking about, like health insurance, vacation time, long-term disability, dental, vision, etc., etc. The point is, before you jump, make sure there is a parachute in the backpack and ensure there aren't any holes in it. Those were my top 3 takeaways. Number 1, find out if people will pay for your product or service before you start. Number 2, consider a business that doesn't require so much money up front. And number 3, find out what your freedom number is. I hope you entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs got something out of this one. This was a really cool one for me. I know I learned a lot. And if you don't want to leave your job, that's okay too. That's awesome. That means you're digging it. That's cool. I'm enjoying both right now. I'm liking my side hustle as I'm talking to you guys because it's fun and I get to pursue my passion and I get a little extra dough, which is cool, while I still have the stability of my full-time job. And as I talked about on the show with Tom and Ariana, I've been able to balance both while, still living a good life with my family and exceeding my goals at work, which is kind of nuts. I'm doing both. Maybe the joy of this podcast and everything that I'm working on has helped me to exceed my goals at work. Anyway, it's been fun for me to not only do this side hustle, but it's also been fun for me to test the waters for the past 2 years. It's allowed me to tweak and update and course correct a lot with my tiny little business. And it's been fun. And if you decide to move forward, make sure it's fun for you too. Now it's time to announce the Money Master of the Week. Thomas from San Francisco sent me a voicemail about a life hack that has allowed him to live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Take it away, Thomas.
Hey everyone, my name is Thomas. I'm a 33-year-old millennial living in the San Francisco Bay Area. What's my financial win? Well, I knew if I ever wanted to achieve financial freedom while living in an expensive city, I needed to figure out a way to pay off my student loans as fast as possible. In under 3 years, I eliminated $80,000 of student loan debt by living abroad and legally paying 90% less on state and federal tax. I discovered that many employers pay more than double your salary to work overseas. I accepted an opportunity to work on a United Nations program in Saudi Arabia. So I'm a coastal scientist by training and never thought I'd follow my passion to the Middle East. Just like that, my salary doubled and work paid for my lodging, car, and all other travel expenses. Here's the kicker. Insanely beneficial tax advantages exist while living and working abroad. How did I celebrate? Well, I packed up my things and came back to my home state of California. I moved into one of the most expensive cities in the world, bought more real estate, and am now looking for my next housing hack. Passive income from more real estate is my next financial goal.
$80,000 of student loans eliminated in just 3 years. And a little global travel to boot. Saudi Arabia, too. That's pretty cool. Talk about going the extra mile to eliminate your student debt. Oh, that was bad. That was a bad dad joke. Anyway, all bad jokes aside, Thomas's story is an excellent example of being intentional with your life. Thomas said to himself, "What is an efficient, smart, and calculated move I can make where I'll be debt-free in the shortest amount of time with my skill set?" And then he did it. He just did it. He just moved. He went to Saudi Arabia and made a boatload of money, paid off his debt, and now he's back in his home state of California, where he's able to live, work, and invest in one of the most expensive cities and incredible cities. I love San Francisco in the world. And it's because of that hard work and dedication that he put to his debt freedom. If you want to learn more about Thomas and his path toward building his passive income through real estate, go to cityformillennials.com. That's cityformillennials.com. That's F-O-R instead of 4, the number. cityformillennials.com. Thomas, thank you so much for sharing your story, and congratulations for being our Money Master of the Week. Do you have a recent financial victory that you want to share on this show? I would love to hear it. Please send me a voicemail at marriagekidsandmoney.com/voicemail or shoot me a note at andy@marriagekidsandmoney.com. These stories really motivate me personally and all of the folks that listen to this show. So just consider it and shoot me a note. I'd appreciate it. You'll find all the links and resources for today's show at marriagekidsandmoney.com/session91. If you like what you heard today, do me a solid, my friends, and subscribe to the show right now. I'll wait. Just pause the show and hit the subscribe button and then come back. I'll be here. Yeah. Oh, hey, Zoe. Hey, Zoe. No, I'm still recording, but they're going off and they're subscribing to the show. So no, I'll come upstairs. You guys, dinner's ready? Okay, great. I'll be there in a second. Okay, great. Oh, five seconds is up. You did it. Oh, did you do it? Did you subscribe? Great. Thank you. Much appreciated. I'm just trying to grow my small business like Tom and Ariana talked about today. So your subscription will help me do that. Free subscription, by the way. Thank you so much. In the spirit of growth and inspiration, I'm going to end the show with a quote today from Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. That's what it's all about, my friends. Keep charging forward. Carpe diem.